Hey, welcome to Press Pause, episode 19. I am your host, Jeff, bringing you all the gaming news that I found interesting this week. You might notice that we're not live this time, switching it up a little bit just to try it out. I've noticed that of those of you that do watch this, the majority tend to watch it next day VOD. So wanted to try just doing it recorded rather than live. Maybe take out some of the rambling and rants I'm liable to go on to. Still keeping my opinions fresh for you, but wanting to maybe streamline this a little bit. Let me know in the comments if you prefer this new style or if you'd like me to go back to doing them live. But with that, let's get into the news. We've got a lot of things to cover. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. Okay, first up, some good news. Council adopts new regulation on batteries and waste batteries. Now, this is from the European Council out of the EU, but they put out this press release on the 10th. This is something I just kind of came across, thought I'd share it with you. The council adopted a new regulation that strengthens sustainability rules around batteries. So essentially, the meat of the story as far as like gaming is concerned, by 2027, mobile devices and portable devices, anything using a battery, is going to need to have that battery be replaceable. So removable and replaceable with common tools, unless they want to provide you with the tools needed. So that's a great news. So things like with the Nintendo Switch or the PS Vita or 3DSs where you had to kind of, well, I guess the 3DS, the battery changing is fairly simple, but the idea behind this is that any device you get, whether it's a phone or a mobile gaming device, it's going to have a battery that's replaceable, which should help, one, make the batteries more likely to be recycled, but also help elongate the lifespan of these gaming devices. So pretty cool news coming out of there. I'm going to assume, much like with Apple announcing that because Europe previously had declared they needed to switch to USB-C instead of Lightning, this is going to probably apply worldwide for devices. It's very unlikely someone's going to make, a Steam Deck or a Switch 2 that is battery replaceable in Europe, and then the rest of the world can go hang. So likely this is going to be something we all benefit from. So pretty cool little ruling there. Just wanted to share that with you if you're a fan of mobile gaming. Or I mean, handheld gaming, right? Because it's definitely not mobile. Alex Seropian, co-creator of Halo, is launching a studio and a game inside the Unreal Editor on Fortnite. So he's viewing the Unreal Editor on Fortnite now as its own platform. Fortnite has a system set up where if you go into their Unreal Editor for Fortnite, you can create a game or like a game type or basically design games inside Fortnite that Fortnite players can browse through. They're going to pay creators based on playtime. So Seropian, who's a AAA developer, has worked across the industry on a lot of different titles, not just Halo. He's built this studio, Look North World. They've launched their first game, Outlaw Corral, a few thousand players on it. It's a Western-type game on its own island. They're planning on launching multiple games a year because the development time should be much shorter. I believe it was 6 people. Let me see if I'm correct on that. I believe it was 6 people working for 2 months. Stay with me, baby. Stay with me. It doesn't matter. It was a very small team working for 2 months. Oh yeah, 2 months, just 6 people. I found it right here. You doubted me. Okay, so the point is they're going to be putting out these games and they're viewing it as a platform. Now, this is much like the way some people are viewing Roblox as a platform. These are becoming platforms. And if Fortnite can attract more developers and more talent like that, because this is a guy who'd worked on Halo, he'd worked on Battlefield. This is not, an up-and-coming developer or someone getting started. This is a AAA dev seeing opportunity here and founding a whole studio based around the idea of working within Fortnite. They'll get paid by Epic based on playtime. This is a pretty interesting step. Who knows how it's going to turn out, but it is a new direction, sign of changes to come. The article here calls it a new era for games. I don't know if I'm ready to go that far. I think it really depends on if this takes off or not, because the screenshots here, it just very much looks like Fortnite. And I know that Unreal Editor for Fortnite, what they're showing off, it seems like you can do a lot more with that. It remains to be seen if that's something viable or if there's just more money to be made by making your own game just on Unreal. All right, moving on from there. Good Shepherd, which is a subsidiary of Devolver, they are working now in partnership with Rebellion to create games based on the iconic 2000 AD universe. That'd be like Judge Dredd, Slain, some others. I'm not British. I don't know exactly who it is, but I'm a big fan of Dredd as far as like the movies. Hey, anyway, I don't know why Rebellion's not making their own games here. This is interesting to me. Good Shepherd must have had a good pitch for them. They've said before that they want to kind of take on more licensed IP and be a good middle ground and kind of bring some of that Devolver digital spirit into what they're doing with these games. I think it remains to be seen. I'm a big fan of Devolver Digital. I've said it before on this channel. I talk about how their games have a certain style. I don't know if Good Shepherd has quite reached that mark. One of their more famous IPs they put out was John Wick Hex. They have the license for John Wick. They put that game out. If you check Steam, it's mixed reviews on that game. It didn't really take the world by storm, and I feel like an IP like John Wick kind of screams to be made into a video game, and you'd think it'd be a pretty slam dunk if you can find the right team. I haven't played Hex, so I can't comment on it. I'm just looking at reviews and looking at the kind of the splash it made around gaming. You'd think John Wick was ripe for that. So if they weren't able to make a big splash with that, not sure. I have total confidence that they're going to be slam dunking something like Judge Dredd or Slain or some of these other IPs coming out of 2000 AD. But hey, they could. I'm not putting it past them. They do have some interesting games that have come out of Good Shepherd. You know, if we look here, they are coming out with the new Hellboy Web of Weird. That's coming from them. Hard West was popular. Monster Train was clearly a hit. Some of these smaller games have been interesting. Black Future 88 is one that had caught my eye. I haven't got around to yet. Hard Reset, right? Hard West. Obviously, these are some interesting games. But like I said, nothing here is like an essential must-play title. I know Monster Train was really popular, but I'm kind of reserving because I'm a little bit interested in why Rebellion isn't doing it, right? Because you'd think, Rebellion makes Zombie Army, Sniper Elite. They don't want to take a crack at their own, they own Judge Dredd. They don't want to take a crack at that themselves. So a little bit interesting there. I wish them all the best. I hope we get something good. Like I said, big fan of like the Carl Urban Judge Dredd movie. Never been a reader of the comics, but I'd love to see something really cool in that world come out of this. Good Shepherd has said their goal is to take these licensed IP and make AAA games, right? Like, a play on AAA. So, like I said, best of luck to them. I hope they can do it. But I read this and I was a little bit like, fingers crossed. This is not going to be a slam dunk. Okay, UK games industry issues new Lootbox principles to help companies self-regulate. This is from the UKI, United Kingdom Interactive Entertainment Council. They have put out these regulations. And the idea here is these are industry principles. They're asking game publishers and game developers to take into account to protect young players. But these are not enforcements. Right now, UKI is basically saying, like, we're not going to pass laws. We're not going to make regulations. We're asking you to kind of take this on. So these are guidelines that they hope will influence how loot boxes are implemented in the UK. It's 11 principles. I wanted to pull it up right here on screen. For some reason, when I try to click into it, Yuki's page seems to be down. So, yikes. Luckily, had it here on my laptop pulled up from last night when I first found this story. Let's take a look here. So let me walk you through it. I'm going to walk you through the principles. I'm not going to go all into them because obviously it's pretty listed out, but I want to read a few of them to you that I think are interesting. So number one, and these are guidelines, right? These are not regulations. This is what they're suggesting developers do in lieu of not being regulated. So the idea is like, hey, you do these things so that we don't have to pass laws to change how loot boxes maybe are predatory when it comes to like younger audiences. So make available technological controls to effectively restrict anyone under the age of 18 from acquiring a loot box without the consent or knowledge of a parent, carer, or guardian. That right there, the number one, that's going to be a huge hurdle to clear. Like, it's hard enough to keep kids from buying stuff. They're going to have parental controls built into the game, not just built into like what games you launch. Or, you don't have access to the credit card, but it's an additional, I guess, loophole there. Because you'd think that if they don't have, you have parental control set up where they don't have access to the card, they wouldn't have the loot boxes anyway. So obviously you're dealing with young people that maybe have access to purchase some things, like maybe they can get cosmetics or skins, but you want to protect them from loot boxes. That's another layer you're going to need, right? Then 2, drive awareness of and uptake of these controls. Okay, that's obvious. Form an expert panel on age assurance in the game industry. Okay, I mean, that's kind of basic self-regulation stuff. Then it's like, disclose the presence of loot boxes prior to purchase. Small print. You know companies are going to do that as small print. No one's going to put loot boxes in big letters on the front of a video game. The public opinion is soured on loot boxes, so it's like putting a Surgeon General warning on a pack of cigarettes. You have to make a law to make companies do that. Otherwise, the fine print's going to be like so tiny. Support the implementation of the video game's research framework. Continue to tackle the unauthorized external sale of items acquired from loot boxes for real money. Commit to lenient refund policies or directly purchased loot boxes or purchased in-game currency. Obviously, that's a big one that I think would help parents a lot. I just think that is in general, right? Like companies need to make it as easy to back out of something as into it, right? Especially when it's a digital transaction like a loot box, they can easily take it away, no harm, no foul. We're not dealing with a physical product that can be damaged. Obviously, there would need to be a time limit on that too. I'm not saying like you should be able to play with whatever you get out of a loot box for a few months and then, I don't want to play with this anymore, give me the refund. But there needs to be a pretty lenient policy, right? Like a parent should be able to discover their kid has grabbed this stuff and turn it in. And that could take a couple of days, right? So I agree there. Advance protections for all players, and then work with the UK government and other relevant stakeholders to measure the effectiveness of these principles. Here's the thing. Here's my problem with all of this I'm reading here to you. These 11 guidelines. They should be rules. These should be regulations. I don't think loot boxes make so much, because we're talking about this is going to regulate like FIFA. Okay, and I don't think we can just trust companies to do the best job possible. You're basically asking these companies, do the best job you can to make less money in the public interest of protecting, youth. And that's good. We should protect kids from this kind of stuff. But I don't know if if the entities making money off it are the right entities to kind of be in charge of how that gets laid out. I think there needs to be regulation that they have to follow. There should be minimum guidelines. There should be minimum guidelines they have to hit not to get in trouble, rather than they need to have the appearance of doing enough to stop those guidelines or stop those regulations from existing. These are just suggestions. So as long as they look like they're following these suggestions, they can do whatever they want, as long as they keep up the appearance of doing this. I don't know. I think in a year or two, in a few years, we're going to see they're going to have to circle back and they're going to have to put in these regulations. You can't just trust these companies in this regard. I think regulation needs to be enforceable, not a suggestion. All right. So next up, Jeff Grubb, noted journalist and leaker. Metroid Prime 2 Remastered coming relatively soonish, and something Zelda series related this year. New video out. I didn't catch it. This is actually coming off mynintendonews.com, but it's probably on Game Mess or the Last of the Nintendogs, his podcasts. But he said there's going to be a Metroid Prime Remastered 2, and then something Legend of Zelda related that is not related to Tears of the Kingdom, right? So not just DLC there. I would love for it to be something like Wind Waker remastered for Switch. That would be awesome. So my fingers are crossed for Wind Waker here, but it's a rumor, it's a leak. You tell me something Zelda related might be coming out. I want to believe you. I want to believe. Okay, so this one right here, this might be the most important and most controversial screen peeking accusations to ever rock the video game world. Growing up, my brother and I would constantly yell at each other, don't look at my screen, don't look at my screen, while playing GoldenEye on the N64. At the FIFA 23 eWorld Cup, a controller apparently was on the big screen at the Cup during penalty kickoffs. So Manu Bachour defeated Mark 11 in the FIFA 23 eWorld Cup final. I hope I said those names correctly. Here's the thing, it came down to penalty kicks. Mark 11 was kicking, and his controller was on screen overlaid with the foot, they mirrored his screen, but his controller's up there too, so you can see his hand movements. the idea is that, hey, he tried to tell them, hey, you need to take that down. You need to take that down. They didn't take it down. They're also claiming, hey, but Manu Bachor, they reviewed some footage. He never looked. They're saying he never looked back at the screen. He kept his eyes on his own screen. After review, they're not taking it back. But it does show some issues there, right? It kind of makes you wonder, why would you even allow it to be on screen in the first place? Apparently, eWorld Cup is saying that Mark 11 had chosen to have that be his stream, knowing that that would be your stream. Either way, I think this probably means they need to have a ruling, no controller overlays. You can't have screen peeking when $300,000 is on the line. That's what was on the line for this World Cup. $300,000. I can tell you what, if there was $300,000 on the line and I thought my little brother was screen peeking, there'd be an N64 controller in the drywall, baby. Next up, the Witcher 3 patch adds more Netflix series cosmetics and improves cross progression. They had a whole bunch of updates. I actually signed on to my Xbox the other day, which is where I have Witcher 3, and it was like a 13 gig update. It looks like there's a lot coming into this one. There's been a lot of fixes for Switch, so if you're a player on Nintendo Switch, it looks like they've done a lot to kind of upgrade that experience, as well as like adding some quests and adding some little fixes, new weapons, new outfits from the Netflix show. And there's also a cross progression setting for cloud saves on Xbox that have been fixed. I can't talk today. And this is being pre-recorded. I really should edit that out, but I might leave it in just to remind you that the villain is human. All right. That's kind of it, Just thought that was interesting. I know The Witcher 3 is a very popular game. I noticed that one thing I think is interesting about it, and this is kind of what I wanted to bring up, is the fact that they are still doing all these updates and giving this game so much love. One, obviously, this game is hugely popular. It makes a lot of people's top 10 list. A lot of people consider it one of the greatest games ever. But it is interesting to me how long this game has been able to kind of hold on to the zeitgeist, continue, how well received it's been. It's a testament to the game that they put out and fan reception. I do wonder, though, if Cyberpunk had been better received, if we'd see the same attention here. So just kind of my train of thought, but it gets me thinking on how difficult it is. Imagine being a game launching all these years after Witcher 3, and you get the steam knocked out of you by a big update to The Witcher 3. It's just interesting that some of these games, it's Witcher 3 is in that camp with like Skyrim, where all these updates can just continue and new ports can come, and it just holds on to people. Interesting world. All right, Forza Horizon 5 Summer Party Patch notes, baby. We got new cars. I'm a big fan of Forza Horizon 5. You don't need to know this. It's just an update, but anytime I can talk about Forza Horizon, I like to do it. Forza Horizon 5 was just a smash hit for me when it launched. I've had a ton of fun in it. But yeah, they're adding some new cars. If you like Forza, you really should check it out. They're adding a Hot Wheels Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. They're adding the 73 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. They're adding the Ford XB Falcon GT, the DeBerti Ford Mustang, Toyota GR86. Do I know what any of those cars are? No, maybe the Hot Wheels. I mean, I know what a Pontiac Firebird is, but that's about it. But I'm excited to get in there and see what they look like and test them out and give them a drive. Because I'm not a car guy, but I'm a video game guy. So stick them in there, and I'm a pretty happy camper. Ratchet and Clank has come to PC. We all know it never needed the SSD. They said it needed the SSD. It didn't need the SSD. All right. Minimum requirements on PC. They say SSD is recommended, but you can do it on a hard drive. Just your standard, bog standard hard drive. And the reason I think people give this a little bit of shit is because it didn't come to PS4. When a lot of other PlayStation games were still launching on PS4, Insomniac had said we need the SSD on the PS5. Now it's coming to PC and it's going to run without it. Why didn't it come to PS4? You had a lot of players there, and it just kind of makes you wonder how much is Sony playing with marketing? Like, it's kind of like when we saw that Final Fantasy 16, you'd seen talks around the marketing of, we really wanted to make the best game possible, and, that was only possible through PlayStation and whatever. And then it comes out during the Microsoft FTC trial that Sony had paid to keep Final Fantasy 16 off of Xbox and off of PC. So just Sony. Also in Sony news, Sony patents new audio technology to create immersive and custom experience for gamers. This comes from Fandom Wire. It's going to be for VR. All right, this patent, let's take a look here. Let's get that ad out of the way and let's take a look here. Okay, as you can see, they've got these devices set up like on a couch, by a door, all this stuff. The idea is that you have audio cues. If you're getting too close to the couch, it'll kind of warn you, hey, you're about to walk into this. If somebody comes through the door, it'll ding a little audio for you. It'll kind of warn you as you're getting too close to the TV, right? All these things kind of make VR a little bit safer. This is interesting, but Sony, you're going deeper down the rabbit hole on this stuff. And I think this might just be a patent to patent. You know, a lot of companies make patents that never come to fruition, but this is selling to like the most hardcore of the hardcore who have the PlayStation VR. Not just the hardcore VR enthusiasts, but specifically people with the PS5 and PSVR 2. So I think what PSVR 2 is at under 300,000 units sold. It is a niche within a niche, and this only niches down further. So cool idea. I just don't see most people setting sensors all over their room where they game. All right, and then saying goodbye to Major Nelson. Larry Erb departs Microsoft after 22 years. If you've been a fan of Xbox at all, I'm sure you heard of Major Nelson. He was the guy kind of always giving the announcements. This week on Xbox, he ran the podcast. Just kind of the closest thing Xbox had to a mascot, I feel like, besides Master Chief, you know, like a kind of a classic spokesman. You know, he wasn't a C-level. You know, I think anyone who was into Xbox, you know, has seen this guy, has heard this guy. Look, put in a huge. He was a landmark at Xbox. I'll say it that way. He was a landmark of a man. But he's moving on. And look, 22 years, what a career. He said he's taking a break, spend time with family, kind of see what he wants to do next. But I wish him all the best. You know, guy's a legend. He'll go down in history. So hopefully whatever he does next stays in gaming maybe. And, you know, but wish him all the success regardless. All right, Game Pass Core. I don't want to get too deep into this. I put a video on the channel explaining the complaints coming out about this, but I'll go over it quickly here for you if you don't want to check out that video. But if you want more details, check that video. Look, here's the deal. Let's go fast. Xbox Game Pass Core is Xbox Live and Games with Gold. They just changed the name. Same price, $10 a month or $60 for the year. You get online multiplayer. Now, here's the little kicker. Instead of getting access to a couple of games a month, you get a list here. You get access to a collection. So you got Among Us, Descenders, Dishonored 2, Doom Eternal, Fable Anniversary, Forza Horizon 4, Gears 5, you know, Inside, Hellblade, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Psychonauts 2, Elder Scrolls Online. You know, so it's a decent little library here that you get access to. And then all the other plans are the same. Console, PC, Ultimate. There's some uproar about PC being cheaper than console. But check out my other video. I go into why I think that's just an inane argument. You've always needed core and console if you want all the features of Ultimate. That's always been the case. This just used to be called Xbox Live Gold instead of core. But you've always needed core and console to get all the features of Ultimate. And so what people are kind of claiming is that, console needs to have multiplayer in it. And then the only perk of Ultimate would be EA Play and cloud, I guess, which I don't see Xbox walking that back. I think the switch from Xbox Live to core is just to make it all Game Pass. So they can say the Game Pass number is a little bit larger. And then also it kind of acts as a better on-ramp, moving people from core into Game Pass. Because it's like, you're already using Game Pass if you want online. So you move up, right? But they want you to go from core to Ultimate. Console is truly designed for people who don't want online. Single player only is what console's designed for, but people who are on Xbox. I'm already talking more than I said I was going to talk about this. I'm sorry, but I just, the kind of uproar and outrage of this, I was very surprised by. All right, let's keep moving on. Activision confirms Modern Warfare 2 content will transfer to Call of Duty 2023. Good news. I don't think this is too surprising because originally Modern Warfare 3, well, Call of Duty 2023, which is very likely going to be Modern Warfare 3, Originally, it was going to be an update to Modern Warfare 2. Remember, originally Activision was talking about Call of Duty was going to do be a 2-year game. They walked that back after a few months, and they're like, no, we're actually going to have a full-on Call of Duty title. So I think these are going to be very closely intertwined. We've already seen how with the original Warzone, Call of Duty was trying to intertwine their games. I think one of the main reasons for going to Warzone 2.0 was to better enable them to have that integration with games and the titles as they go. Because I think there were a lot of hiccups and issues as they would bring out like Vanguard or Black Ops Cold War and then Vanguard, integrating that in with Warzone and with what had happened in 2019's Modern Warfare. I think this is going to be the test of if they can integrate better now. We launched Warzone 2 with Modern Warfare 2. And now we're going to see if they can integrate this next Call of Duty title in a way that I think is more organic and natural and with less hiccups and issues than what they were able to achieve with the last run of 3 games on Warzone 1.0. So we'll see. Hopefully they can. I had said when Warzone had launched and we knew that they were going to launch Black Ops into it, I said one of the issues that they're going to have is as they bring in new guns for each entry, trying to balance those guns with the old guns is going to be a challenge. Games like Apex and Fortnite can adjust guns all they want because they're not selling you the gun itself. They're selling you like skins and cosmetics, but Warzone sells weapon blueprints. So they can't really get rid of older guns even as the meta shifts. And so I think it gets very difficult as the weapon pool gets larger and larger to try to keep them all sort of compressed down into a lane of viability. So let's see how they do on this. Speaking of that, I saw this on GameSpot. Call of Duty makes a huge amount of money on mobile. Here's how much. I wanted to bring this up because if you listen to my other episodes of this, or I harp on the fact that Activision Blizzard King in a lot of ways for Microsoft was about mobile. Call of Duty is huge on mobile, 650 million downloads, $1 billion a year in revenue. And it turns out, according to this, since their launch in 2019, they've now surpassed over $3 billion a year in revenue just on mobile. All right, so that's how big. When people talk about ABK being for mobile, everyone jumps to like Candy Crush. It's not just about Candy Crush. Call of Duty Mobile is a gigantic juggernaut in mobile, okay? $3 billion lifetime spending in that game. That's huge. It's about half of what Pokemon Go has earned during its lifetime, but Pokemon Go launched way before 2019. So yeah, this is just a crazy amount. They're looking to launch, a Call of Duty Warzone mobile that's going to take players back to Verdansk. But this right here was interesting too to me on mobile. It's not just the money, but it's also out of Call of Duty's 90 million monthly players, over half of all engagement for the series is on mobile. That's crazy. So console and PCs, less than half. Console and PC combined is less than half of what Call of Duty Mobile gets in player count. I mean, if that doesn't as a PC console first type of gamer, puts a little chill in my spine, okay? Because I've been saying for a while now that what's coming next over the next few years is going to be a meeting of mobile gaming and console PC traditional gaming. And they're going to infect each other. And my fear is that mobile is going to have a much stronger hold because of its market dominance. And as consumers, all we can really do is like try to be smart about what companies we support and where we throw our money behind what type of projects, because we do want to hold on to certain aspects of like console and PC gaming, right? Single player games, a lack of monetization in games that are long with deep narratives, open world that aren't, my fear is that comes a day when, as we move closer to screen agnosticism and being able to play the same types of games on your phone, on your console, on your PC, on a tablet, on a TV, wherever, as we move towards that world, it just becomes a world of like gacha games and online multiplayer only, and we lose the deep, rich experiences we get from traditional single-player games that don't usually do that well on mobile. Now, there are examples we can look to on mobile where they have ported console games over, or like with Apple Arcade, you've seen games like Fantasian, or Platinum's game. I can't think of the name now. the point is, you're seeing certain things on Apple Arcade that look like traditional games. They've taken out all of the in-app purchases and microtransactions. And my hope is that kind of a balance can be found where there is room for those things. And like, I'm not trying to be like doom and gloom. I don't think it's in some imminent danger, but I think it's something that as consumers, we ought to be vigilant about. Because, you know, what we buy now, you know, will echo into 2030. Just kind of my anxiety. Okay, let's move on to this article from The Hill. Supreme Court Justice Elena Kagan rejects an emergency request to block the Microsoft and Activision Blizzard from merging. This was from the Gamers lawsuit, which is like a class action lawsuit being put on by some lawyers who have previously sued big companies and class. You know, it's class action lawyers. This is what they do. Kagan is responsible for appeals from the Ninth Circuit. So when it comes up from there, this lawyer, they've been blocked every step of the way. They got blocked here. They wanted the Supreme Court to halt the injunction while a handful of PlayStation gamers sue Microsoft because it's going to be anti-competitive. Come on, if the FTC lost, this didn't have a chance. So hopefully that's put to bed, but I doubt it. They'll probably rear their head again. Finally, last story. Microsoft and Activision extend the acquisition deadline to October 18th. The deal was supposed to complete July 18th. The only kind of final hang-up is the CMA in the UK. They had gone before the CAT tribunal over there to kind of put a pause on the litigation because they were going to be going through an appeals process against the CMA, trying to unwind that. They've paused it so they can have time to maybe work out some sort of deal. It looks like there could be divestiture. What analysts are saying is that likely Microsoft will give up its rights to cloud streaming in the UK and allow another company to hold those rights and basically handle the cloud streaming of Xbox games in the UK. That's what I'm hearing is most likely. It could take other shapes. It could take other forms. It's, you know, not 100% sure what that's going to look like, but they're trying to come to an agreement with the CMA rather than try to, you know, litigate out that process. I think they're seeing this as the fastest way to a resolution. Part of the extension that they came to with Activision, though, raises the termination fee. So they've got 90 days extension, right? It's going to be in October 18th. Let me find this. So the fee had been $3 billion, right? Now it's $3.5 billion if it's canceled after the August 29th, and then $4.5 billion if the deal is scrapped or expires after September 15th. It's a lot of cheddar. I think what's become clear, though, through all of these trials and all of these issues is Xbox is all in on this deal. Activision was able to safeguard cover their ass a little bit more by moving that extension up $1.5 billion. So Microsoft has 90 days to get this thing done. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep you apprised of the situation in the UK as it occurs. But yeah, like I said, that was the end. That was the final story. That's all we've got for today. If you made it this far, please leave a like on the video, consider subscribing, and leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of these stories. And if you like this new format or if you'd like to go back to seeing this live, thank you so much. I'm going to go.